Awesome. Yeah, I've got my nose powdered.
Makeup good.
Awesome.
Shoo.
Ready to rock?
Yes, sir.
It's
Let's
not as
get
hot
it.
down here tonight as it was last week.
No, it's always the setup that got me sweaty, dude. Just running around and shit.
Awesome. Well, welcome to another episode of More Than Tattoos podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bow. To my left is my co-host, Tim Saul. And today, the guest on our show is one of the leading animal eye surgeons in the world. He is a husband, father, friend, a board-certified veterinarian ophthalmologist, a diplomat, miracle worker, a mentor. He teaches all over the world. He is the founder of the Animal Eye Institute, also hosting the Veterinarian Ophthalmology podcast. I'm very honored to introduce you to Dr. DJ Haeussler.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
Fucking murdered that intro, bro.
Long time listener, first time caller. So yeah,
Right.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome,
Cool.
man. It's definitely great to have you on the show. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering, like, well, why the hell we have an animal eye doctor on here, you know?
Right.
Yeah, me too.
Right. Well, DJ, he became a very good client at the shop, and a lot of clients that I know, a lot of you tattooers out there want. It's been awesome working with him, been creating artwork with him, and just really getting to know him. And I think that, one, he's a badass. I think that to help in any way we can as a community to help build and help his businesses grow. I think that he could give some insight to us on really how to attract more people like him in our business. And that's really what kind of led me to reach out, or led us to reach out here and see about having him on the show. But we really don't have any major agenda. I think we're just going to talk some bullshit.
Yeah,
and
that sounds great.
just see where it goes.
Yeah, no, that's great. It sounds awesome.
Awesome, man. So what you got planned? You got anything, big things coming up this year?
No, not too much. We opened up a new location in Charleston, South Carolina, about a year ago, and so that's finally starting to pick up a little bit. So excited about that project. It's like business, like you guys know, it's a big deal and quite scary,
Yeah.
and when it's 10 hours away from you, it's really, really scary. But yeah, no, it's mostly in business. That hope to get some vacations in. I'm headed down to Brazil to teach a cataract course in April, so I'm not really looking forward to that. So Brazil is one of my favorite places on the planet, so I'm happy to go back. This will be my third time down there.
I imagine the food is just
The
immaculate.
food's awesome.
Dude, and
Steak everywhere.
that's
Dude, like-
always our conversation every time you come in, bro.
Yeah, it's true. It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to talk about a couple things, food and weather,
Right.
So, but yeah, dude, you can get like the best ribeye at like a gas station down there. I mean, it's
Dude,
unbelievable.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really awesome.
Oh, man. I think that, so like everywhere you go, they're just like cutting slabs of meat off.
I mean, it's kind of how it feels when
Yeah.
you're there. I mean, they like the steakhouses, like, the ones up here, the Fogo de Chao or whatever, like it's like a condensed version of like what it really is down there. Like after church, they all go there on Sunday and it's packed house and it's just food galore.
Mhm.
And one of my friends who took me down to one of those, he like interprets for me. So, like he'll tell me like, don't eat that, dude. That was pig heart or whatever, so like
It's good to have
he
someone
runs
like
some
that.
interference on me, and luckily he's a good friend. He's not like, oh yeah, go ahead and try that, It's like,
That was actually goat testicle.
Yeah, glad you liked it.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. Did you getting started in your business? Did you ever have the like dreams of just traveling the world and doing stuff like what you're doing?
Yeah, but I never, ever, ever in my life thought it would happen. I mean, it's I always wanted something like that, and to do it like some of the people I looked up to did it, but I never thought I'd get there. So it's something I don't take for granted at all. Like, every opportunity I get, I'm so thankful and honored. And so it's been a blessing. It's been really, really a wonderful experience and awesome to see different cultures, and kind of see like how we as Americans do a whole lot of whining and we've got a whole lot more than other people, and they, different places I've been have a fraction of what we do and they're 4 times as happy,
Yeah.
so it's been eye-opening for that.
Yeah. I know I always talk about Gary Vee on here, but he always mentions that. He's like, I know people with millions that are just unhappy, and then people with nothing that just live life to the fullest.
Yeah, you and I are Gary Vee fans. For sure we've talked about that before, but he's very inspirational, and but yeah, he's right. I mean, you ever watch that show Below Deck? You ever seen that show? It's like these people take these mega yachts, they like, rent them, and these things are like a couple $100,000 for like a week, And some of these people that are on these, like the guests, are the most miserable people in the world, and they can afford a $200,000 a week vacation, and it's just like,
that's crushing.
Yeah.
That is just
right?
like soul crushing. Yeah. Like, I feel like I would just be on cloud 9 if I had like that much disposable income.
You would think, but I don't know. I don't think people have a very good mindset about it. Some people that get to that point there.
Well, I imagine you just get to a spot where you're actually accumulating that much money. Like, you just have to have so much stress.
I think you do.
Like
I think,
so many
to
things
get to that
moving.
level, you probably do have a fair amount of stress, and you're taking things for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know if I was there, I'd be fucking having a dandy old time.
For
sure.
real.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't be taking anything for granted if I could afford a $200,000 a week vacation.
Me and my wife, we just booked a week vacation down to Jamaica.
Yeah,
We're
nice.
gonna go down there for a few days, 4 or 5 days. But it'd be the first time. I went to Canada once, but it was just like I was in the States almost. Besides, it was kilometer instead of miles per hour.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
fucking threw me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But man, some of the pictures they had online, some of that real clear blue water, and it just looked fucking awesome.
I went there in 2001 with my family. I was still in college, and it was right after 9/11. And so no one was traveling, and they were so happy and thankful to have you there, because that's how they make all their money, is through tourism. And man, that place is straight out of a movie. I mean, everything that they make it like, with the accents and they're partying all the time and having a great time. It's exactly what it is. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's awesome. I kind of thought you'd take Hip to. I thought you'd take Hip to Disney World or something.
Oh, that's
Seems to
fucking
like
I
it
think
funny,
so
dude.
much, like fuck you.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah. Hip definitely seemed like he liked Disney World in the last episode. Yeah.
Yeah. If Disney's listening to this, we're definitely looking for a sponsorship.
I don't think you're gonna get one after that episode.
Probably not.
I don't think you're getting one.
Man. Yeah. So like, obviously, you said that you weren't really anticipating traveling as much as you do now, but obviously, I'm sure it was a shock when you started to do it a little bit. But where is like the craziest place you've been? Where like you know your location, obviously planning on everything out, doing a conference or something, but you're like in your head like, holy shit, I'm going to this place.
Moscow.
Moscow?
When I went to Moscow, that was one of those, like, you feel like you're on a different. You feel like you shouldn't be there. Like it's
Holy
weird. It's a
shit.
weird feeling. Like when I've been to Brazil and Mexico, like they like bring you in, they act like you're one of them, and stuff. When you're in Moscow, for me it felt like I was some sort of like CIA operative. Like I should not be here.
Wow.
Holy shit.
They're angry, it seemed like, and the ophthalmology community was fantastic. Like, I mean, that was normal. That was fine, because I knew a handful of Russian ophthalmologists, and lecturing over there was fine. But it was like the like day to day, like walking on the Red Square and like interacting with Russian civilians. It was just a very weird feeling. It felt dangerous, and that was in 2019. So that was way before any of the nonsense now.
Oh, right.
But yeah, when you're leaving that airport and you're going through customs, and that customs agent asks you questions, you feel like you might not get through. Like it ain't like customs in Atlanta where they're like, barely looking at you, and then they're like, bam, 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 come on in, they're like grilling you and looking at your ID and, asking you what you were doing there and where'd you stay, and you're like, I don't even know where I stayed. I can't pronounce any of these words,
Right.
So
Can I get a pen pad or write it down,
yeah,
dude?
it was that was a weird feeling over there, and super cold. I was there in the fall, and it's a different type of cold. It's like this cold that it just cuts right through everything. Like, you see why they wear those big furry hats and everything, because it's not the same type of cold. I don't really know how to explain it, but it just doesn't feel like the cold over here. Like I feel like this is more of like a wet cold, like where we're at, and over there was just like this cutting coldness that just like ripped through your coats and everything.
Sounds miserable.
Just straight bitterness.
It was like, yeah, I mean but everything's big. It's like everything in Moscow is humongous. Like their museums are gigantic, and like I mean you can't get through them in a day. So it was an interesting experience, but probably one I'll never get to see again. You know, I don't see that opening up to the West anytime soon again.
Right.
You know? It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Man.
I definitely want to be a world traveler. You know, Katie is on board with that too. Man, I just been trying to delay gratification. Just been trying to push out those trips. You know, I did get invited to Rome, Italy last year. I thought that would have been a fucking awesome trip to go on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that you want to delay the gratification because like some of this stuff you don't know when it's going to be there anymore. You know, like you look at that famous church in Italy that burned down, and like we ain't going to see that again anytime soon. You know, and you know, I'm never going to end up back in Russia again. You know, I mean, they're trying to capture Americans right now. I ain't trying to go back there right now.
Like Brittany, what's her name? Brittany
Griner. Yeah, Brittany Griner.
She was like there for like a year in prison, wasn't she?
I mean, when she went through that, I'm like, I know exactly what she was feeling when she went through customs, and I didn't have anything illegal on me. You know,
man,
the balls to try to smuggle a vape pen.
I mean,
Russia.
Come on. Just what do you do? What do you do?
That's all it was.
Yeah, it was a cartridge vape pen. I'm pretty sure.
Are we talking like it was weed?
Yeah,
or,
okay. Just like a little.
Fuck. Damn, like if anyone, no jokes to the fucking Russians or nothing here, but if anyone needs to chill out, get a vape pen.
I'd be like, it's for me. I'd be like, it's for my glaucoma.
Right, dude. Jeez, that's
don't
crazy.
know how that got there.
Man, and fuck around and end up in Russian prison for a year.
Yeah. You end up in Siberia.
Dude.
Yeah.
But you know, and I'm just kind of reflecting on a little bit of the podcast of yours I listened today. Before we get, you want to plug it?
Oh, it's just if anybody likes, you know, dorky eyeball stuff, it's veterinary ophthalmology. It's you just have to spell ophthalmology correctly, which my co-host cannot do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's but that's all what it is. We interview various people that I look up to, or you know, want to kind of give them some shout outs and just talk about their careers and where they've been and that kind of thing. Because I really like everybody's journeys, like no matter who you are, you know, like I like what got you from day one to now, and you know what molded you, that sort of thing. So I definitely like hearing about it from other people in my industry, because we all kind of ended up at the same spot we did, but we all didn't start at the same spot.
I think that's super interesting. You know, I don't think anything in this world's that black or white. There's always, you know, it's like technical tattooing. Like I really don't like teaching it. Like there's so many different ways to apply ink or ways to learn, or you know, it's hard for me to really get excited about like this is what I do, you know, because it just works for me. It doesn't mean it's gonna work for you, but yeah, I was listening to one of the episodes, and you mentioned, and I thought it was really relevant to a lot of people coming into the game these days, or just starting any kind of business. But you had talked about one of your biggest, I believe it was your biggest challenges. And what would be one of the biggest challenges that your medical manager, maybe putting that wrong, but of your South Carolina location, what would be one of her biggest challenges? And you essentially was just talking about patience and boredom. But if you would, could we kind of touch on that topic a little bit?
Touch on whatever you want.
Because I think that a lot of people get into business and they just want stuff to happen so fast, and just right now, and then get discouraged or quit when it doesn't happen that quick.
Yeah.
You know, so through some of your journey, what was that like? How did it affect you, and what did you kind of really do to push through that stuff?
Yeah, I was actually just talking about this, I think on just Friday with some of my staff, and that is that, you know, now when people come in and they see this practice that's been going for, I guess, 12 years now, that, you know, we're moving, it's, you know, it's busy, you got people coming in and out, you got a big staff, you know, and it's very, very glorious, you know, to look at it now. But, and especially if I go to train somebody, where I'm training them and then maybe opening up a location, another location, then, you know, they want it to pop off like the main hubs are popping off. And it's hard to say, like, you know, well, when I started in 2011, like we weren't busy until 2015, you know, and I opened up on the tail end of the housing crisis when all that was going down. And so, you know, there was days where I went to work and I would see like one patient, and, you know, I'd just read medical journals and try to, you know, get better at my craft, and, you know, try to get better at marketing, try to learn different strategies to, you know, get people in the door, you know. And that was right when, ironically, Gary Vee was just coming out with all his stuff. So it was like I was devouring his information, and just about like being more open and teaching people, because it's more of a thought to many different ophthalmologists, at least in the past, to not teach someone, to like hold all of your information, you know, your industry secrets, if you will.
Gatekeeping.
Yeah, you know. So now it's like, but you know, when you put care into it and you teach other people, it, you know, it brings more people along, and opens people's eyes as to what, you know, what else is available. You know, if I was just quiet and I didn't try to teach anybody, didn't want to go anywhere, the last place I'd be is in a podcast studio talking on a tattoo podcast, you know. I mean, but so yeah, I think that, but getting through some of that initial stuff, as much as it's kind of frustrating to get something off the ground, it's also where some of the best stories come from. You know, the trials and tribulations of, you know, it becomes the walk uphill in the snow to school both ways. So, you know, down the road,
Right,
I mean, you know, now I go into my practice and sometimes, you know, things are flying along, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, kind of bored now, you know, like, but, you know, I wasn't seeing as many cases back then, but it was fun to like figure out the struggles and try to get through those obstacles and problem solve, you know. So just have to be patient and continue to make interpersonal relationships and keep getting better at what you do, you know, and just, I mean, enjoy the journey, you know. It could be a whole lot worse, you know.
100%.
You know, you said something, you know, about wanting to open up to teaching people and educating others. And I think in the tattoo world, you know, gatekeeping is obviously kind of a thing. It's like, I'm not really sure. I'm not a tattooer, so I've not actually sought out education for tattooing, so I haven't experienced that gatekeeping thing. But in your early stages with your career, what was it like to seek mentorship, you know, through that? Or like
for me to seek mentorship?
Yeah, or even through some of those like slower periods where you were faced with, I need to have patience and build those interpersonal relationships and just get better. What was it like for you during that?
Fortunately for me, when I was first starting as an ophthalmologist, I didn't really know any better because I didn't work for any like hugely successful ophthalmology practices in private practice. So like I didn't know any better. I was just hoping that I didn't get squashed. You know, I was hoping that like some big corporation with a ton of ophthalmologists didn't open up across the street for me and just squash me, you know? So, so I talked to a lot of friends, you know, a lot of people that were more my colleagues rather than mentors, you know, because I was too afraid to talk to anybody older than me, you know, like thought for sure they would just laugh at me or, you know, or know I was struggling and then, you know, laugh, you know, and that kind of stuff. So I would talk to friends and they would, you know, they kind of knew what struggles I was going through and they would help out. And so it kind of went along those lines, leaned on a lot of people that I didn't expect to lean on, you know. So it's how I made a lot of my international friends too, because like they wouldn't judge me. So if I like was nice to them, then, you know, they were happy that some American was being nice to them, because a lot of times the American College of Ophthalmology, at least maybe 10, 15 years ago, a lot of the like international ophthalmologists said that people weren't like that friendly to them. They were like arrogant, you know, if they were American. And, but I needed help and I would take it from anywhere I'd get it, you know? So I would just ask them and that's how I made a lot of long lasting relationships. So
a little bit of kindness to go a long way, right?
It goes a long way. Yeah. I remember I was supposed to do cataract surgery on this little Bengal tiger, this little tiger cub. And, so I just, you know, got on the internet and was searching around, you know, who's done these things. And there was this Dr. Jack down in Brazil. He had done like the most that I could find of anybody had done. I mean, he'd flown to Australia and did some in Brazil. And so I just asked him, like, how do I get artificial lenses for these things? And what do I need to do? Like anything I need to know about these guys post-operatively. And, we kind of forged a relationship. Now I consider him to be one of my best friends. It's been going on the whole time. And it's just because I treated him with respect and he treated me with respect. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
Could we just talk about how fucking crazy that is that you were operating on a baby tiger?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Right.
you want me to make the story even wilder for you?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, dude.
So it was this baby tiger. I got called to this general practice in Dayton. One of my friends. He was a past student when I was a resident. Now he's a veterinarian. He goes, I got this tiger cub that's got a cataract. So I said, oh yeah, I'll definitely come by and see that thing. So we walk into this dog cat hospital, and in the back there's this cage, and there's this little tiger cub. He looks not that much bigger than like just a big house cat. And I like get down like in a catcher's position. I'm like, hey buddy, like that through the cage. And this thing was like, rah, and like pulled it, and like its teeth like are so huge, and like the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And I was just like, that is not a cat, like that is a wild animal that could kill me as it sits right now. So I ended up talking to the doctor about, he said this thing's got digestion problems and they've got to do an abdominal surgery on it. So I did its eye exam when it was under anesthesia. So I'm asking him because I want to know why this Bengal tiger got cataracts. Like, because the biggest like cause of cataracts are typically inherited cataracts, juvenile, so they were basically born with them or shortly thereafter, or nutritional cataracts where they're eating something they shouldn't and then they get cataracts. Well, some lunatic had this tiger as well as some other things in this like quasi zoo somewhere near here in Dayton. And they rescued it, and they didn't have tiger milk to like raise it. So they were feeding it human breast milk.
Wow.
Holy shit.
That's why it got cataracts.
What the
Wow.
fuck?
It ended up dying before surgery because, somebody just messed this thing up. So, which was super, super sad because it was a beautiful animal that definitely wanted to treat me like a chicken nugget. But yeah, that was a cool one. But yeah, they were feeding it human breast milk.
Wow.
Man.
It's disgusting.
That is disgusting. That's fucking crazy though. It's like, so if that's not the craziest animal you've ever operated on, what is?
The craziest animal I've probably ever operated on is one of the shark rays down at the Newport Aquarium.
I saw that recently, right?
Yeah, so there was one that was down there that got lacerated by a southern stingray right across its eye and laid its cornea wide open. And so they had to anesthetize it, lift it up out of this holding tank. They basically used like a giant like crane with like this big canvas that holds it, and then lower it down into a tank where they run anesthesia through it. And so I had to suture up its cornea. So, that was wild.
Do you feel like most animal eyes are similar in a lot of ways? No,
they're all different. And a lot of times you don't know what you're getting involved with. And so in our residency, it's considered, it's called comparative ophthalmology, which means you use techniques you learn from various different animals so that if you get asked to look at an animal you haven't seen before, you hopefully can kind of put together, other animals and figure out what they're using it for. The Newport Aquarium is really cool because they have a lot of, they have their own veterinarian, they have biologists and technicians. And so you really have to like listen to them because they know way more about those animals than I do. Because some of those, like, they'll just have a crew where all they work on is the penguins. So you got to ask a lot of questions to figure out, like, well, how do you think this eye injury occurred, and how do we fix it? And, does it even need to be fixed? So you got to ask them a lot of questions about it.
Yeah. I think that, along my journey, obviously I've had a lot of different times to study and look into stuff and seek help. How much, this is probably hard to answer, but how much of your job is research? And how much do you think you've really done over the years?
It certainly is top loaded. So, you get, you're heavy on it at the beginning. And then after a while, the you're seeing a lot of the same stuff. So like I stay current on literature. I read that. I use that to help test my residents and my interns. But I don't feel like I have to necessarily like beat the crap out of my own brain anymore like I used to, you know? I mean, and it's probably, you know, your guys' end of things is probably a lot different for both you guys, actually a lot different because things are constantly evolving. We haven't seen a whole lot of huge evolutions, you know, lately in terms of disease. I mean, it's come a long way since I was reading a paper the other day for a presentation I'm doing from 1980. And I'm like, wow, man, look at how many things they were wrong about. And that was only in 1980, you know, which is, you know, as old as me or whatever. Now we don't see a whole lot of massive changes. We see some cool stuff coming around, but not really massive. But like, you know, tattoo designs, at least from what I look at, like really evolving fast. Like the artwork is, I mean, it just from an outsider layman's perspective, it's moving quick, you know? And I mean, you look at stuff on, you know, that show Inked or whatever from 5 years ago. And it's like, oh, they're doing a lot better stuff now than what, you know, Dave Navarro was talking about, you know, and then you look at photography and videography and you're like, good Lord, man, every time Sony drops a new camera, it's like, it just like completely radical, you know, like make everything else irrelevant, you know, or at least stuff close by, you know?
Right.
So,
like my eyes can't even see this shit.
Yeah.
Right. Like my eyes aren't even this sharp.
I mean, I'm like, I was playing with my camera this weekend and I got, you know, a Sony camera with that AI chip in it and it's following my kid's eyeball around as he plays soccer so that I can keep him in focus the whole time. Wow. And it's just like, good Lord, man, you know? So your guys' stuff changes fast, seems to change a lot faster than my stuff does right now.
Yeah, I feel like that every time I open up my Instagram app, man.
Oh, you can't, dude. Tattooers, that's like almost like advice to every tattooer. It's like the best advice and probably the worst is to delete Instagram.
Yeah.
Just delete that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I even saw some of your more recent stuff where you're adding like some of the color in on your black and gray, and you know, the red one, the skull with the red in it, and the skull with the purple in it, and I'm like, man, that's a whole lot of stuff he's doing different than he was a couple of years ago. You know, I mean, when you tattooed me a few years ago, you were like, are you serious? You want me to do color? Like, are you serious? Like, I'm so pissed off at you right now. Like, now all of a sudden I see it like, oh, bro's still doing color. All right, you know?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I think color work definitely has that eye catcher that black and gray, you got to really fucking work really hard to get. And, yeah, first 5-6 years of my career, that's really all I did.
Yeah,
was mostly color. I would do black and gray, but and my passion always lied with. That's where I started with black and gray, pencil drawing, stuff like that. But here recently, I just have been looking for ways to elevate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just it's topical. You know, things are just there's so many badasses, and if I want to continue or to chase the top, I think that just kind of integrating the both and figuring out how I can do both really showcases a lot of different skills, but it also catches the eye that you just have to put out that kind of work because, man, you get on Instagram, and there's just artists all over the world that are just doing fucking
it's just unbelievable,
phenomenal stuff.
It's just unbelievable. I mean,
it's like, how is this even a tattoo?
Yeah, I know. Like,
you know?
We've talked about some of those when I've been in your shop, and you know, various ones that we're like, oh yeah, we both follow that person in France or that person in you know, Czechoslovakia or wherever. Yeah. It's just like, you know, some of the far corners of the world. And, but really cool for your guys' industry, you know, I mean, like, you know, it's, I mean, you know, where it goes way back, it was just like bikers getting tattoos, you know, and now it's like everybody's looking for dope pieces, you know, and it's amazing how things have even changed. Like in my medical setting where, you know, when I first started my practice, which was 10, 12 years ago, you told everybody you cover everything up. You know, if you got arm tattoos, you better have it long sleeve. I don't care if it's middle of summer. And then just this year, I caught myself for the first time saying to a doctor who's got arm tattoos, I'm like, you ain't got to cover that up. Ain't nobody care. You know, like, I mean, if anything, it'll be a conversation piece, you know? So it's come a long way, you know, whereas before it was, you know, everything, you know, kind of to use Tim's word that he was using on your therapy episode about being sterile, like the doctors had to be, you know, very sterile. It doesn't have to be that way anymore, you know? And, honestly helps you relate to people a lot too. You know, I mean, don't act like you ride your high horse, you know?
Yeah.
I agree. And it's so funny that that's like kind of where tattoos came from, is like the anti-high horse thing, I think, is like, I'm a bad motherfucker. I'm a biker. Like, you only get it if I gave it to you kind of thing. But tattoos are starting to enter this like age of fine art where it's like, you know, but funny enough, you're on the show, people like you want tattoos, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the people that you would, the top level of like, oh, they wouldn't get tattoos. Like, they hate tattoos and stuff. Like, no, those people are the ones probably actively seeking it the most, I think, in a lot of ways. But they're going about it patiently, to bring that word back up, you know, being patient. But I mean, I think that kind of circles into a way, maybe to segment or to maybe not drop what we were just talking about, but you know, when you're at such a level of excellence in your own industry, and you start looking for tattoos, what are you looking for when you understand standards and stuff? How do you go about like looking for that person?
I mean, for me, it was just a matter of figuring out, like, you know, I had an idea of something that I wanted, but my brain doesn't work very artistically at all. Like my brain works scientifically and therefore I really am always so impressed with artistic minded people. Like, I love to watch their process of things. It's a lot of fun. And so for me it is, because I'm like, man, my brain don't work that way. That's so cool that their brain works that way, you know? And so, you know, when we first set up the first piece, and it was like I had this idea, and then Chris like laid it all out, and I'm like, ooh, that's nothing what I thought of, and that's way better than what I thought of, you know? So so I think first for me was just finding like a style that I liked. And so, you know, I'm not like a American traditional guy, and I wanted like more of a photorealism, some of the blending. And so that's kind of what, and then I was just looking at, you know, anywhere that was relatively local. I mean, like it didn't have to be in my backyard, but I wasn't going to be flying to France or anything to get a tattoo. So, but anywhere from Columbus on down, or Columbus to Lexington or something like that, I would have been more than willing to go to. And it was just a matter of finding the right style, and you know, finding somebody that I felt good to work with, you know. So
yeah, when you say felt good to work with, you know, and this is weird for me to ask, because obviously we work together. You know, so I'm not trying to get this information out of you for my own ego, but just to kind of
give me the cheat code,
you know, just to kind of help some of the people on here, you know, when you say felt good to work with, like what do you mean by that?
So I actually found somebody else that I was originally approached about designing everything, and the scheduling was just an absolute nightmare. Like, it just wasn't like, you know, because we're all busy, right? So like, it's like, you know, if you're busy, then like you need a plan, people to commit to that plan. And I didn't really like this particular person that was like, well, we'll get back to you in 6 weeks when we figure out our books. And it was like, well, I don't want a piece in 3 months. I'd like, you know, like anybody, it's like, I got an idea and I want to get this thing to go. And probably you, as the other end of it, don't want me thinking about it. Because if I chicken out or like find somebody else that's going to do it less expensive, or maybe my style changes or whatever, like, you probably want to get that person in your chair pretty quick. But so we ended up talking on email for a little bit, I believe. And then this is I know I brought this up. This is funny. So then we get scheduled a consultation with you, and I show up and walk in, and Katie's there, and I didn't know her, of course. She's like, can I help you? I'm like, yeah, I have a consultation with Chris Powell. And she was like, okay. He's fishing. So I was like,
so typical. So
like,
typical.
Right.
It's not, but like, if there was anything you were doing, it's gonna be fishing.
So then Katie was like, hold on, let me get him on the phone. And so she's like, you know, she's trying to make small talk. So she was like, you know, did you drive from far away? I was like, it was like an hour to get here. She was like, you know. So then Chris gets on the FaceTime, and he's got like this freaking giant hat that he's sitting in like a canoe in like a wetland or something, and he's like, right, so totally forgot about this. And of course at the time I'm just thinking like, what is it with these guys? Why can't anybody hold a commitment and schedule, you know? But you know, you were laid back about it. We were laughing about it. You were like, why don't you just, you know, why don't you give me some ideas, shoot me some ideas on email, let me start to put some things together, and then we'll get going. It was just more of like a laid back, and I could feel like that, you know, you were like, oh man, I messed up, you know? So it's like, I was like, that's a normal thing, you know? And, you know, it's not like you were, you know, doing anything bad. You were fishing in the middle of summer is when it was, you know? So, but yeah, so that was kind of funny, but, and then the whole experience has just been really great outside of you tattooing my ankle ball. That hurts really bad. But for both you guys, it's fun to come in and talk. You guys are just normal people with normal problems, you know? And, you know, I've heard you guys, I listen to stuff you guys are talking about, you know, between you and I'm sitting there playing on my phone and, you know, other artists that come in and maybe just slap on some headphones and don't talk to you. And I've thought about when you were telling that story, I'm like, man, I would not want that. Like I wouldn't want to sit here for 8 hours and just play on my phone with no interaction whatsoever. I can get why people do that. I mean, like, honestly, I don't know how you guys talk to some people for 4 to 8 hours. Like, I mean, people are weird, dude. Like, I don't like, people are weird. And some of the things that they go on and on and on about, like even in my exam room, and I'm just like, get me out of here, dude. Like, I gotta get out of here. So you know, but I have a good friend in New Jersey who's also a tattoo artist, and he's got like the gift of gab too. You know, he just talks, but he comes up with wild stories, man. Like, you know, I'm sure you guys have them too. You know, they're just things people tell you.
I think for me, it's usually because, you know, everybody's got different personality types, and some are harder to get going than others. But I'm not naturally a talker. I would say I'm an introvert at heart. You know, I need my downtime by myself to really recharge. But you know, I think that just having a level of care, you want to have that conversation, and then if I feel like you don't want to talk much, obviously know when to dial back, have some discernment. But I work with so many different people. I think that I'm not approaching it in a self-serving way, but at the same time, you know, just everybody has their own experiences, and I guarantee you, if we talk long enough, you know, and I get you to open up, there's going to be some things on your journey that will help me on mine. You know, and I just have always loved. There's a book that was one of my favorite, is The Greatest Miracle in the World, but he talks about being a rag picker and just reigniting people's dreams, you know, or getting them to talk about it, or just pulling the best out of people and finding out, you know, maybe I can either inspire you, or I can use your journey to grow myself, and use that time wisely versus just letting it go out the window. You got a cool piece of artwork, but that's all that came of it. You know, I think that building that long-term business and developing those relationships, you know, connecting on more of an emotional level, a topic that clients really feel passionate about or are really into. If I can get to that, then I can develop that friendship that's going to help, you know, even if you don't get another tattoo, we still have that camaraderie or that long-term friendship that, you know, may result in more tattoos, more business, but just having a lifelong friend, you know what I'm saying? And most tattooers seem to not really care about that part.
It's kind of crazy because if you have the opportunity to talk with somebody, you know, I mean, like, you know, I have much shorter intervals, of course, of people coming in and out of the exam room, but and some people, they don't want to talk. You know, they just need their med refills, and they, you know, and they just want to make sure their dog's doing all right, and they're in and out. And then there's other people that, you know, might share a story with you, or maybe you stumble onto a story, and some of them are quite centering, you know, like where you get like in this groove where, you know, maybe you're cynical or angry at some things or whatever. And then somebody drops some truth bomb on you and you're like, man, I need to shut up. Like, that person's is really going through a tough time right now, you know, and it may not be anything to do with their dog. You know, it's just like, sorry, I'm late for my recheck. You know, my husband unexpectedly died, and now I'm trying to like put everything back together again. And I'm just like, whoa,
Yeah.
and so it's you got to take a moment to reflect on some of that, because
Yeah.
it'll center you,
Yeah.
get you back to center and make you appreciate what you should be appreciating,
It's kind of wild how some of those feelings come and go. I know over my 10 years of tattooing, which still doesn't really feel like that long, I've definitely had some highs and definitely have had some lows where at times I felt more angered at the world or more cynical, like you said, or just easier to complain, easier to talk about how bad I got it. But in the grand scheme of things, like we got it so fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, and the flip side is true too, right? You go through something really terrible, and then you get somebody who's like comes in my exam room and they're like, I gotta give my dog drops twice a day. Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? And it's like, bro, you haven't experienced anything bad. Like, and you're 55. Like, how
Yeah.
good has your life been that you're yelling at me over giving your dog drops twice a day?
Yeah.
And it happens. It happened last week. So it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
On average, how many people you think you work with a day?
40.
40?
Yeah, 40 clients a day for the most part
It's
for
a
me.
pretty solid number. Like if you're booked out to the max, that's
If I'm
where you're
booked
at.
out, it's 40 to 44 for the
Yeah.
most part. Yeah, it's so that's it's moving.
Yeah.
It's moving quick.
What do your appointments mostly consist of?
Mostly, so the main diseases I see, so primarily dogs, then cats, and then horses. We're looking at glaucoma, dry eye, cataracts, retinal detachments, a lot of the same things that people get. And it is chronic disease, So like if you're like a veterinary surgeon, then you don't really get to see people like over and over and over again because you fix a knee and then they're done, and then they're out of here. But eye disease is almost always chronic. You got to manage it for the life of the animal, and so I do get to see people for years on end, and it is nice to get to know them, especially the really, really, really nice ones, and they end up learning a lot about you. They ask about your kids and they ask you about your hobbies, and you get to ask them about that stuff too. So it is nice to make some of those more long-term friendships.
Now, when you're working with those clients, I'm assuming you also have people that you're coaching and mentoring, assisting you throughout that process.
Yeah. So I usually have a intern or a resident with me. Those are doctors that I'm teaching and they're employed by us. And then I have a technician with me as well. So they're kind of hanging out, listening to these conversations and helping get everything organized.
Yeah. You always had a passion for teaching, or I guess I say that like you have one, but do
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I guess I have. I enjoy it. It's fun. It makes it if what I try to teach my residents is that if you are willing to teach, it will take you to the next level. Like if you think you're a good doctor and then you start teaching, you'll become a better doctor because then you got to fix their mistakes. You got to break it down and reverse engineer. Like, man, how did they make that mistake? And now not only do I got to fix it, I got to teach them how not to do it again. And so I really enjoy it because I feel like it makes me better by having to teach them as well.
Yeah.
It's the classic saying, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You might be sharp and have a dull blade. But
Yeah.
you can still sharpen one another.
Yeah, it's true. It's but yeah, it's if you want to be a really good surgeon, try to teach somebody how to do surgery because holy cow, are they going to mess up? And then you got to figure out how to fix it quickly.
Yeah. Definitely sounds like it helps you remain a student.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah. I think that's big, a lot of people get to a point where they feel like they've mastered something, then what do you continue to learn? What can you, but that opens up a whole nother spectrum of things to grow with.
It does. That's the biggest part too, I think, is that, when I was early in my career, I'd come out of a cataract surgery and do the whole like Michael Jordan jumping through the air, like pumping your fist, like you won the game winner, Now it's not that big of a deal for me anymore, but now if I get somebody else to do it, now it's a big deal because I got them to get over that bridge, and so it becomes, I'm really enjoying the part of my career right now where I'm finding my successes lie with getting other people successful, and that's really important to me right now.
Yeah. Now the eye the ophthalmology industry, is it
Mhm.
very big?
No, it's probably roughly around 600 board certified eye doctors in North America. So Canada, United States, and Mexico.
Nice. Yeah, that's not very many.
There's not that
huh?
many. Yeah.
You ever
It's getting bigger though, because there's other countries that are now starting to put together their own like testing and certifications and stuff. So like now there's like a Asian College of Veterinary Ophthalmology. They just fired up. There was a Brazilian College of Ophthalmology, and then it kind of laxed for a while. Now they're firing that back up and doing a recertification. So, it's picking up, across the globe, and it's now reaching into areas that haven't been reached before, like India. Now, like they're asking some of these American doctors to come over and teach them, and it's like obviously a huge market. I mean, it's a
yeah.
giant populated place,
Yeah.
So it's interesting to watch.
I speaking on tigers earlier, there's a Netflix documentary, T24.
Oh, Tiger King? Yeah, I've seen Tiger King.
That's a good one. That's actually my Xbox handle.
Bro, is it?
Katie made it like 5-6
Oh
years ago.
my god. That's hilarious.
Never changed
Beginning of COVID. Yeah.
But no, it's I think it's T24, and I can't pronounce the actual area that it takes place, but man, those tigers just run free over there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Those things are fucking huge.
It's amazing some places in different areas of the world where you're just like, these people are nuts. Like,
Yeah.
I have a good friend who's an ophthalmologist in Russia, and he'll like take a picture and be like, look, this dude brought this black bear in my clinic today. And I'm like,
What the fuck?
what? Like,
Like it's
I mean,
just
he
his
got
pet.
if you want to look at some wild veterinarians doing some wild stuff, follow any of the Russian guys on Instagram. That's a different planet what they're allowed to have out there.
Well, see, that kind of opens up a question that I had that was like, how much does social media influence your industry? Because I know for ours, it's the meat and potatoes. You know what I mean? But yeah, I see some of your content that you make online, and it's fucking crazy.
Thanks,
Crazy. It's just like it's I teach people this when I'm like talking about social media and stuff like that. But it's the things that like people stop on that are just, I've never seen this before ever in my whole life. It's like I have to stop and digest this right now because I've never seen it before. And every post you make is like that.
Well, that's interesting because it's the same way for you guys, for me, because like my feeds are loaded obviously with ophthalmology stuff. So like then like if I get to see a video that you're posting of work he's done, I'm stopping and looking at that. And actually we've talked about that, I think, in one of the first times that I was in the shop, is that it's probably the same in your industry where it's like monkey see, monkey do, like everybody's doing the same type of like content, how they're distributing that content. So it's the same way in veterinary medicine. They're doing the same thing. So I try, at least with social media stuff, and is to look at other industries to see like what is succeeding for them. And of course it's usually stuff I'm interested in. So it's like, it's easy for me to, look at that stuff. So it's like, yeah, like I like to follow a lot of the tattoo stuff because I'm like, these guys have, I mean, monstrous followings and huge amount of likes and things like that. And so I like watching other industries to see what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I had a question I was just about to ask you, but I totally fucking brain farted.
We usually get one of those per episode.
He got stuck on Tiger King.
It's on Tiger
the
King.
fucking tiger. I can't believe that's your handle, dude. Do you ever get messages
I
online?
don't ever tell anyone that. Yeah, you guys are the first people I've ever told.
Oh,
that.
great. We're on a
the whole fucking
podcast.
audience
Okay, we're on a podcast right now.
Motherfuckers just start playing COD with Chris Powell. Starts at 1 a.m.
So many people on there talk shit too.
I was gonna say,
'Cause I'm
bro.
not that good, so they're just like, motherfucking Tiger King.
Bro, that's so good. I bet you could sell that handle, dude. Motherfuckers
could.
would buy that shit for thousands just to like start running it on fucking like like multiplayer games and shit. That's funny.
I remember what I was gonna ask you. You guys are the only ophthalmology podcast right now, right?
Currently, yeah. Except that I recently, when I was in Boston for our annual conference, this French ophthalmologist came up to me and was like, "Hey, like, we started one in France, it's kind of similar to yours. We do a lot. They do more like case-based stuff, like talking about diseases. But he's like, but I don't want you to think that we're copying you because we're just saying we're doing it because people don't understand your English, you know? And I'm like, I don't care what you do. Like, you know, that's the fun of podcasts. You can get anybody's, you know, take on anything. So,
and see, we talk about that too, is just opening up education as a whole. And I think that as much as we've had that conversation with, you know, me and Chris, or like having guests on stuff, I think you might have put it the best way, that it isn't just the next level for being a master at something to teach someone else, but it's also a completely new opportunity for learning a whole slew of things in its, you know, in its own. So how much time, and again, I know Chris said this, it's probably difficult to just like know how much time you put into this, but you know, if you could put like a rough percentage on it, how much time do you feel like you put into just leadership?
I mean, currently I'd say that that's probably outside of just seeing like clinical cases, then that would be number 2. And is like, one would be either putting out fires, right? Like you've got, you know, I got a doctor in South Carolina who's calling me up and she's really ticked off at something, doesn't know how to handle something managerially. And then I'm on the phone with her for an hour, you know, and it's like at 8:30 at night. Or working with my brother-in-law, who's my operations manager, on, you know, talking about like, here's what we need to do for this staff we have to try to either, you know, increase their ability to want to work here or decrease their want to leave and go find another job. So I feel like that kind of stuff is, from a leadership position, is probably carries the most weight, to be honest, because every now and then I look back and I'm like, man, these people are relying on me. They're relying on me to make a good decision and lead us in the right direction. And occasionally it blows up in my face, you know, and I have to be like, look, nobody writes any, I mean, they do, but no one has ever given me a textbook on like, this is the way you manage your place. Like, and here's the answer key. You know, I've told plenty of people who've been yelling at me, an employee yelling at me in my office. And I'm like, I'm going on with this same way you are, man.
Right.
Like, and I don't know if you guys are the same, but like, I might be 44 years old, but mentally I still feel like I'm 23, you know, like so it's like, I'm doing the best I can, you know, and if we're all moving in a positive direction, then fantastic. But, you know, I tell people all the time, like, let me spare you the suspense. I'm going to screw up, you know, like I am. And it's going to cost people their jobs, you know, and like on some of those decisions. And so that stuff's kind of scary, you know, and my brother-in-law is really good at it. Great at managing, and also just being a positive person, you know, so he weeds out a lot of toxicity in our workplace. And so, he's a good force to work with, and, you know, it leads by example, you know?
Right. And that's a little interesting to me that, is he trained in this field? I mean, I'm probably assuming not. Cause I mean, what are the odds of, you know, your brother-in-law also being in that?
He has a degree from Ohio State in like business systems management. So essentially, like, he could operate a handful of hotels or a handful of vet practices.
Gotcha.
So his job is essentially putting out fires and troubleshooting, and then making those systems more efficient, like automating them through the computer, making it so that people aren't on the phone as much. Maybe we can automate it through text messaging systems. So things along that nature.
I see. And that struck me in a way, because it's almost like your version of the Tim, you know what I mean? Because I'm not a tattooer, you know, and I haven't necessarily put a lot of intent into doing that, but I feel like I have contributed a lot to me and Chris's business without touching the technique side. Or from your perspective, like, you know, obviously you wouldn't ask him a question about cataracts, but there's a whole nother slew of questions you could be opening to that person, despite being in this industry and not being what the industry is.
Well, and the same is true for him, is that I don't know what he's doing half the time, you know, and I need that. Like, I can't sit down and learn how to do this system right now. Like, I got these 40 cases I got to see medically. I can't sit there and do that. You know, if Chris is lining out a new design, I don't think he necessarily probably wants to sit there and learn how to do what you do, because it would take him a long time to get there, because that's
Right.
not his craft,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is funny when Joey, his name's Joey, when Joey will call me and ask me some question about, something, I'll tell him like, well, here's the background as to why we do that medically. And he's like, what, bro? Oh, that's so wild. It's like, but I don't need him to know that stuff, like that's
Right.
what makes a bigger group, click, and click faster, is everybody knows their lane and does what they need to do.
Oh. What do you feel like has been one of the biggest challenges kind of moving into the leadership side of things?
I think it's always going to be like picking the right people,
Yeah.
Because people are unpredictable. I mean, animal diseases are fairly predictable, to be honest with you. But picking the right people, because, if you hire the wrong person, I mean, they can just make your life miserable. They
Yeah.
either could be stealing from you, they could just be like staging a walkout of employees, and take people with them.
Yeah.
They could be lying and scamming you the whole time. Or, you bring somebody in and you put them on a decently sized long like contract or something, and they're not who you thought they were off of the first couple interviews, and now you're stuck with them for a year or two,
Yeah.
and it's like, so I think that people selection is incredibly important, and you can't always get it right,
Are you a hire fast, fire fast kind of guy, or you got a pretty thorough process?
I would say my problem is that you have to kind of be hire fast now, because everybody's hiring all the time. So like you got to like make a decision, and I think nobody's really going to be able to. You're not going to be able to see who an entire person is on like a day or two interview. So you just got to bring them in. My problem in the past is that I wouldn't fire at all. So like I would
That's a tough part, man.
I would collect these people, and I'd be like, and then I'd be like, why does this place suck? And it's like, well, because you won't let anybody go, but my brother-in-law, he'll tell me, like, he's like, we gotta get rid of this person, like they're causing too many troubles, they're not doing their job, and he's kind of like one of those, one to the head or two to the chest, how do you want it, and so it works for me. I'm not, I don't have to necessarily be the bad guy, and it cleans up some toxicity problems, but man, I'm notorious for giving people try and try and try again.
I feel like there's a lot of shop managers that can relate to that.
Yeah, it's because you develop interpersonal relationships, and you're like, you understand people's journeys more, and they're in the trenches with you, and then all of a sudden you got to be like, hey, you're not on my team anymore. That's
right.
a hard thing to do.
Fuck yeah, it is. And some things can be such small, just like, I guess, maybe not, you mentioned lying, stealing, but even a minimum of just like them showing up to work and be like, how's your day going? And they're like, oh, that shit just spreads like cancer. I feel like, man.
Yep. Yeah, you're saying it right. I mean, I had this person in my dating clinic. I used to walk in there in the morning and be like, morning, everybody. And they'd be like, good morning. And then this one person wouldn't say a word to me. And I'd be like, good morning. And they'd be like, morning.
Yeah.
And before you know it, 2 months later, nobody's saying good morning to me anymore. It's like, just like you said, it's just this cancer. You know?
Man, where's your line with that? Because I know you have to work with so many people. I mean, first off, you're telling me you're seeing like minimum 40 people a day if you're booked, 44 if you're like really pushing it. And then all the people that you're teaching, you got this new location and stuff like that. So like, where's your line with positivity? Because I mean, Chris said it himself earlier, he's introverted. So, and I've got my days too, where, dude, I just really want to focus on making this video the best I can. I'm just like kind of glued to this, so my personal side isn't really coming out that much, but, when people talk to me, I'm still engaged. I give them my time. I'm excited. So, I mean, how fast are you to like correct something like that, or like maybe to coach something like that? I guess is a better way of saying that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you clearly not going to say anything to somebody like every day, like if they're, you walk in, because maybe something else going on, but like if it's a trend, then I feel like, if it's a doctor, since I manage the doctors for the most part, then I feel like I have to sit down and say like, got something going on? You know, like what's up, you know? And inevitably then there's always the conversation of, I know that might be bad or a negative part of your life right now, but we also have a workplace that you have to kind of check some of that stuff at the door, you know, because we're running a service here, and this isn't the woe is Johnny hour, you know, like you gotta clean it up, you know, because everybody's going through something, you know?
Right. And I would imagine there's probably an additional layer to your field, because it's not like you're just, I mean, it's kind of similar to tattooers too, because like there's a permeance to what you guys are doing. Like, it's not just, I didn't fucking salt the fries. You know, I left that fucking burger on there a little too long. You know, I'm doing surgery on a fucking baby tiger today. There's a little permeance behind what I'm doing today. So the positivity, I would think, has to be a little more serious than just like, you know, we've got, you know, customers, they want to feel good. It's like, no, I need you to be good.
Right. You're right. It's crazy because, you know, if you're seeing whatever 20, 30, 40 a day and you have a negative interaction with 2 or 3, that very well could end up as a negative Google review.
Yeah.
And, you know, the other day, last week or 2 weeks ago, I was in a bad mood about something, you know, like something wasn't going right. I wasn't feeling the best. And at the end of the day, I was just flat out exhausted because I was just like, the amount of patience that you have to show all day long, you know, gets exhausting if you're not on your game, you know, and it's like, yeah. And then a client might say, like, to one of your staff members, he doesn't have the best bedside manner, you know? And it's like, you didn't ask me what was going on in my day. Maybe I shouldn't be at work today. Maybe I should be at home just sleeping it off. But I came in, you know, I have a headache, and I came in to help everybody here, and you didn't give me that benefit of the doubt. You just don't like my bedside manner today. You know, it's like, I don't need to be on all the time. You know?
And it would be so, like, dude, I feel like I do this to my people a lot, is like speaking about this utopian world or like that. I just watched Pay It Forward recently. It's a fucking good ass movie, but it's like, it's just so like revitalizing to hear someone, because we see one client a day. You know what I'm saying? We hear their story for 8 hours or whatever, or X amount of sessions, but you're seeing 40 people. You're maybe hearing at worst case scenario, but you're hearing 40 stories a day. You know, how do you give every person the same level of like, I give a fuck about you, even when you're not like at your 100%?
Yeah, I mean, some days I don't know. You know, you just try to do your best. You know, I always try to at least tell my staff, like, you know, if you hear of something where like the client was, you know, maybe not the happiest, like, you know, just kind of reiterate that, like, I treat everybody with respect. You know, I don't disrespect anybody unless they disrespect me. But that doesn't mean that I have to be everybody's best friend all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're paying me for my service, you know, and you're paying me for my years of knowledge and all that. So if you know, for me personally, I think that if you go to a doctor's office, wherever the doctor's office may be, and they're able to solve your problem and at least treat you with a minimal level of respect, then you're getting what you paid for. But like, you know, I don't run into too many people that are asking me to come over for Christmas dinner. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, we're not great friends, you know, like, sure. I have some clients that absolutely I'll go out and grab food with them, and, you know, or they've invited me over and stuff like that, but it's not the majority, you know, not by any stretch.
And this is coming from an industry that is, I don't think anyone's surprised by that, you know, like your clients not asking you Christmas and stuff, because I don't ask my fucking doctors to Christmas parties and shit, you know, and we fucking should. No, but I'm just kidding, you know, but you know, and this is, you know, that's coming from someone that sees 40 people a day, and this is a tattoo podcast after all, you know, and what's the most amount of people you've tattooed in a day? Like on that crazy kind of days
back
where
when
you
used to do like the $10 square inch. I think, you know, and I know there's some tattooers out there like, well, that ain't shit, you know. But I think it was 14, you know, and it was a long day, but
that's at a crazy, you know,
it's exhausting,
though. Right. And that's exhausting. So, you know, to maybe for anyone that's listening to this that is a tattooer and kind of faces that, I think that you should feel good hearing it from a person that sees 40 plus people a day, plus all of their students and stuff they're trying to coach, that they can have the endurance to like, I'm not fucking perfect all the time. Yeah, you said it in a really nice way. Is like, let me save you the surprise because I'm not perfect, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think that there's for no matter what industry that you're working with, whether it's tattooing or veterinary medicine, like that, nobody's a robot. Yeah, everybody's a human and has their own things going on, their own family problems, their own things, and they're not always going to be at their best 100 every day. Like, yeah, sure, some days you're going to come into my office, I'm going to be like hopped up on a venti caramel latte or something, and like be in a great mood, and rolling around on the floor with their dog and stuff. But there's other days where it's like you don't understand what's going on the back end. You don't know that I just had 2 people quit. I got my lawyer telling me I got some other issue I got to contend with, and I got somebody who wants to talk to me after work, so I know it's going to be something bad, and it's like, just let those people get through their day. Just treat them with respect, like.
And that's before you get home.
Yeah, that's before you deal with anything else on the outside, So I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, and certainly I've told people that because I'm a very shoot from the hip type of person where I'll tell a client like, I'm just trying to help you, right? Like that's all I'm trying to. You're paying me to help, and if you don't want my help, you don't have to come back.
Yeah. The old takeaway.
Yeah.
That's what I've always called them. You get that client that starts having that entitled feel, or start trying to take the power and tell you how to roll. It's like that little takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you don't have to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to do your service.
Yeah.
I want to help, but I'm just ain't gonna jump around and bow to your every will.
Yeah.
But I think there's a way to communicate that, and sounds like you do a great job at it.
I feel like that's always something that I've appreciated about you, DJ, is like, you've got leaders that I think are they're either super right or super left, but like, I feel like you, when I think about you in my head, it's like you're very well positioned in the middle, but not in a way where you're on the fence. Because I wouldn't call you on the fence with stuff.
I'm never.
Is you know how to make a decision?
Yeah.
But you're very level-headed.
I try to be, and the older you get, I feel like the better you get at it if you're paying attention and if you're, like cerebral, like you guys are. Like I listen to your podcast. We've had numerous conversations in the shop, and you guys are always looking for greater self-help and motivation, inspiration, and things like that. And I feel like, if you're trying to analyze yourself, you're going to come across like, all right, and then just be humble and just be like, man, I didn't get that right. Like it's all right to say that. Like you're not less of you're actually more of a person if you just say that, and
but also at the same time, I do feel like you're as much, you have your humility, but you're willing to like almost have someone else's humility for them, like to put someone kind of in their place. And there's very slim reasons I think that that's ever necessary, and a lot of people, probably especially in the tattoo world, use that more than it's necessary because it's it's a fucking biker world, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like you still have that, maybe call it a sense of urgency that when you notice something, you will address it.
Yeah, I think you have to, and there's also, I don't know how much you guys know about like veterinary medicine in general, but the suicide rate is really high in veterinary medicine. It's one of the highest out there. And they, for a long time, they've blamed it on a lot of things. They've blamed it on like high income to debt ratio. They've blamed it on high euthanasia, that you're euthanizing other people's dogs, or cats, horses, whatever the case may be. But that ain't it. Those might be small contributors, but the big ones are some of the abuse that the public can put you through. It's the negative Google reviews. It's the things that they say, and they don't happen to me that often because like I work at a different level than like a general practitioner. And so, when people come to see me, they do want my help. They do want to see me by and large, and they're willing to spend the money to do so. Whereas more in the general practitioner world, they're getting blamed, saying that like, you don't care for my animal, and that's why you're not going to do this for less money and all this sort of stuff. So I don't tolerate that behavior. I don't get pushed around with it very much because I personally feel like the sooner that veterinarians start pushing back against that behavior and not allowing them to get bullied, the sooner we'll get out of that sort of mess. And COVID kind of did that. Like everybody just like lost their minds, and like the negativity was so bad that veterinarians finally were like, we're not going to put up with this anymore. We're going to push back on it. And it's very helpful for me to push back on it because one, I think it tells somebody I'm not going to tolerate this behavior. You're not going to abuse me. And for the staff, man, they'll stick around for a really long time if I don't let people abuse them. If I go in and I'm like, wait, a client said, what do you like? Oh, no. Let me get that person on the phone and tell them it ain't acceptable. So I think you have to be that to some extent, at least in my opinion.
I definitely think so. When it's, again, as like I said, as much permeance as someone's animal, because I mean that's probably, take a, animal eye doctor and a fucking tattooer. You guys as clients are probably in some of the most vulnerable positions possible, right? Next to like a burn victim or something, you know. And human beings are much more apt to caring about their animal more than themselves. I would think more often than not, right?
Yeah.
So. Again, just for the people that are listening to this, is all coming from someone that's like, dealing with people that their animals are fucking sick. It says seriousness to it.
And some people, that's all they have. Like they don't have much. They only have that dog. Or like you hear these stories of, you got to do everything because this was my husband's dog and my husband passed away. And I feel like this is the only link I have with him left, and so it's,
damn,
so and sometimes emotions get the best of you in those situations, from their perspective. They're anxious, they're worried, and then they, displace that anger and emotion on you. And sometimes you have to understand it and just take it. I mean, sometimes you do.
Right. And that comes back to that thing where it was like, it's so easy to point the finger and we're like, oh, I didn't do nothing to you. I'm doing my best. But it's like, you didn't ask the question about what's going on with them. Right. And that goes both ways. But for us as business owners, like we know that, call it being the bigger man or whatever, but just being the one to put your foot forward first, for someone else.
Yeah, for sure. You do. And, take it on the chin, sometimes you have to, it's just, and sometimes they have a point, like sometimes a client will call me and be like, I got to talk to you about something. And I'm like, we screwed up. Like I owe you one. Like I owe you a surgery, or I owe you a free exam, or I owe you an apology. Like sometimes you got to take it on the chin and be like, man, I can't even tell you how many times I've had a client tell me like, man, I thought you were going to defend that staff member until you were blue in your face. I'm like, no, they messed up.
Yeah.
They messed up. And I would also say like, but they're also human.
Yeah.
They're normal. Like they're, that's a 24-year-old female that's doing their best for me, like working for me. Like she made a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that humility, like you said earlier, makes you really relatable. I think we'll definitely draw those clients in closer versus going to bat for something is wrong. Just that ego,
Yeah, I just I don't think that's a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
I don't. People sometimes need to be heard, and sometimes they're a client that tells you something that maybe they didn't necessarily like is way better than a client that is mad that'll get on the internet and type it. I always thank people for those conversations. Like, man, I can't thank you enough. You brought this to me as an adult. Yeah. We spoke like gentlemen. We solved the problem. And hopefully we can move forward in a healthy manner. But I think the foundation is just treating each other with respect. And I don't have a lot of respect if somebody's going to get me on the phone and like just come in all hot-headed and cussing at me. And I'm like, hey, if you and I always tell them, if you and I are going to have a successful problem-solving time, we're going to treat each other with respect. We're not going to use swear words, like that. That's
a good way to put it.
Kind of the bare minimum is we're going to have a respectful conversation. We're not going to have one, I
was going to say, we never really did that officially on the show, but, after having talked to Jared last week, congratulations on being a tattooer and buying a house. You know what I mean? Because it sounds like that doesn't happen.
I got off the pirate ship.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it happens a lot. And, fucking congrats.
Thanks, man.
without without you getting off the pirate ship, we wouldn't have a dope tattoo studio
No, we
or
wouldn't.
podcast studio rather. But
I
man.
got a nice pool too, so this summer we're
Oh,
gonna be
nice.
fucking
oh yeah,
swimming.
we're gonna need to break in that fucking hot tub too, son.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Real awesome.
But yeah, so question I had for you, yeah, and there's probably been a lot of them, so it's like getting asked like, what's your favorite tattoo? You know, it's like, well, I don't even know where to fucking begin. You know.
Yeah.
But if you had to say, what do you feel like your greatest achievement has been so far?
Being a dad.
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking knew it.
I
I
love that
knew it,
answer.
man. Dude, that's
Yeah, I love that answer.
Being a dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's cool. It's the most rewarding. And you know, it's like every day that comes is like something new. It's weird because it's something new, but then it's also like you miss the previous days. So it's like you get to see something really cool coming up, but then like you miss those days with those early memories. So it's kind of one of those things. But
Shit makes me emotional all the time. Katie's grandparents, just the other day, you know, it's like, this is the last, she won't be a baby for long. It's the last baby you'll have. I'm like, fuck. Like, ugh. Like, cause dude, I love it. You
Yeah.
know?
yeah,
That's mostly what I do outside of work. You know, I work 3 days a week usually.
mm,
So the other 4, sometimes 5, just full-time daddy duty,
Yeah.
you know?
yeah,
I'll try to do work while they can sleep in or while Logan's in school or after all the kids go to bed. But, you know, I realized how important it is just trying to be present, you know,
Yeah.
because the time fucking flies.
It does. Yeah, it's you know, I miss the days where I would come home from work and my son, who was probably 3 at the time, would tell me like 3 or 4. He'd be like, "Tell me about the dogs." He wanted to hear about all the dogs at work, you know, like what their names were, and you
Yeah.
know. And now, you know, he just turned 12, and now he wants to debate me on, you know, the best fighter pilot or best fighter planes in the United States Air Force. You know, so it's like this is also rewarding. You know, so it's kind of cool.
Oh, man. I hung up Christmas lights for the first time this year. I've never done it because we've always rented, and I just have been like, I'm not doing anything extra that I
Yeah.
have to do. But so we went out Lowe's, went and got a bunch of Christmas lights. I'm you know, sometimes I like this year in particular, I felt like I could have been like Scrooge, like I just wasn't
Yeah.
pumped. But we went and got lights. Let Logan go with us to help kind of pick out some things. I hung up the first strand. Logan walked outside. She seen him, and she just like full sprint at me and just gave me the biggest hug and was like, "Thank you, Dad." You know,
That's cool.
Oh man, you
not
know.
to make me fucking emotional this
God,
goddamn
dude.
show, bro.
Reel it in.
Damn,
Reel
son.
it in.
Then you're like, and then 4 minutes later, one bulb goes out and the whole strand goes
like,
out. And you're like,
motherfucker.
fuck, like, everybody get back inside. Worst Christmas ever.
Oh man, that was definitely one thing that helped pull
man.
me through it this year.
Mm.
You know, all growing up, Logan, she had asthma, so like
Mm.
wintertime has always been rough. She'd get like bronchitis or something. We spent Christmas in the hospital several times. And in the past couple years, ever since COVID, it seems like with daycare and school, like from like October till June, it seems like we're just getting pounded with sickness.
Mm.
So it's kind of taking it out of me around the holidays.
Yeah.
And it gets tough, and then I'm not really close with a lot of my family, so Christmas time rolls around, and I feel like I gotta buy everyone gifts, and like, you know, it's like, well, can't we just get together and just be family, you know,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So it's been tough, but we had a shop Christmas party that was nice. Logan, Lakin, they definitely helped out a lot because I don't like, you know, I feel like I've been going through it that I don't want to say cynical, but I feel like I've been going through a phase where I've been in the rut,
Yeah.
kind of thing, you know.
It's easy to get in that rut
Oh,
in
man.
Ohio winter times, man. Like it's just gray all the time, and you know it's cold and
Yeah.
icicles hanging off your car mirrors and stuff. It's like
Right.
salt, you know. Got a gray truck. The thing's white right now, you know.
So when you get in those times, what are some things that you really do to kind of try to bounce back or pull yourself out?
And we're talking like peak, like rut. You know what I mean? Because this is information that I would like from you too. You know.
If it's work related, I think it's pretty important to try to, well, no matter what it is, whatever's getting at you, find the inciting issue and get it out of it for a while. So if it's work related, then like I try to just take a few days off, go somewhere, just get the heck out of town. I mean, just get a new set of scenery, or I mean, there's always going to be another dog's eye to fix. There's always going to be another dude to tattoo his arm. Like you ain't really necessarily losing that much in terms of time or money if you need to go out and get your head straight. Because once you get it straight, then you're gonna be worth 3 times as much anyway.
Fuck
you
yeah.
know? I mean, so it's, and like the older I get as well, it's like, and the more you see death or people getting diseases, it's like, man, you don't know when your card's getting pulled. So like, it ain't worth grinding it out on another Friday when you don't want to. Like, freaking cancel your book and go get down to Gatlinburg or somewhere where you maybe can have some fun and get out of it. So
yeah, it's good stuff, man.
The one guy here that doesn't have kids, I saw this post recently that made me think. It was like, there's one person that's gonna remember all those hours that you put in when you get to retirement, and it's your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids are gonna be the only person that think about all those extra hours you put in when you get to that point. So I don't know. For me, not having kids, I'm very blessed to be able to put these like crucial, hours in right now when I'm young and I don't have that. But dude, I just when I see stuff like that, I think about fucking dads in my life like you guys, and I fucking mind blown. I really seriously, even sitting with you now today, I don't understand how you guys do it. To show up day in and day out and be the fucking top tier fathers, because every time you get tattooed, and I was saying this a second ago, it's always good conversation like this, but I feel like it always gets to the point of talking about kids, because that's like the peak of you guys' life. You know what I mean?
Stuff,
so that's just so commendable.
I had my mentor when I was at Ohio State. He excellent surgeon, and I mean one of the best in the world. And as good of an ophthalmologist as he was such a wonderful father. And I took a lot of notes watching him. Like, he could be in the middle of rounding with 8 students at the end of the day, and if his kid called, man, he picked up the phone every time. And so he's given me a lot of advice over the years of like, every time I run into him at a conference or something, he's like, hey, I'm watching your socials, you're working too much, and he'll be like, you need to make sure you're getting vacation, because they ain't gonna be here forever, and so try to take him up on that, so.
Early in my career, I was basically right out of high school, and Katie got pregnant, and man, a lot of those I missed a lot. First steps, first words.
Yeah,
I missed all kinds of stuff early on. And a few years back, I was listening to this audio, and he said, "Never lay your kids on the altar of success." And since that point, I was like, okay, I need to, like, I'm young. I have all the time in the world. I'm gonna act like I have all the time in the world to get where I'm going. But man, those days with the kids, they go by so fast.
So fast. I mean, they're not lying when people say like it goes fast. Like, nobody's lying about this.
Right.
Like, it does. You turn around and you're like, whoa, it's gone.
Yeah.
I thought about that recently, because I do have a 10-year-old brother, and obviously he's not a child of mine. I'm not feeding him, every fucking day, make sure he's good. But I had this thought. I was like, man, what if I like really was able to tell him that shit like moves faster as you get older? Like as we sit right now, when I'm telling you this, time is moving slower for you.
Yeah.
And like, what if you really clicked into that? Because I wish someone would have told me that when I was younger.
Yeah.
Of all the things I was told when I was younger, I wish someone had told me that shit moves too fast, or moves a lot faster.
Yeah, everybody's probably telling you cut your hair all the time.
Fuck yeah, I still get that shit, man. Like, man, tell me
cut your hair, man.
Tell me to go on vacation.
Stop telling me to cut my hair and tell me to slow down time.
Right, dude, right. Because I think stuff like that it's the things that everyone needs, but you don't get told that every single day, and it's so difficult for the mechanism to tell itself when to stop, because for us the only understanding is to keep doing the thing, because that's what's gonna make the product or make the thing happen, right? So I mean, I don't know. That's just,
I think, is also what really helps is to kind of go back to your question about what do you do to get out of a rut, is like celebrate your successes. Like don't be negative on the things that bring you down. Like, if you have a small success, then freaking celebrate it. Whatever the case may be. Like you got video that you put together and it puts up thousands of likes. Like that's a success. Go out to dinner, have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
You put a dope piece down on somebody's leg and you're like, man, that pushed me and I liked it and the client was difficult. Now I'm done and it looks beautiful, and like, man, I'm gonna sit back and just be quiet and reflect on that I made it through that difficult process. So I think doing a lot of that is very helpful.
It's so easy to just all right, what's next? And just fly right past it.
right.
Yeah.
You have to feel victorious to, like, I think maybe I'm just now understanding this, so give me the space to like unravel this, but it's like the feeling of victory really comes in spending time being victorious, right? Is like, like you can't expect anyone else on the planet to tell you when you're victorious or when you have made a feat, when you've accomplished something, right? You need to be able to do that for yourself. And if you're not, it's so easy to fall into that. Like, well, what's the next thing? Like, I'm not even stopping to recognize when I'm victorious on anything. So I feel like that's almost a habit of itself, or like a skill that you can attain, is like a skill of noting when I'm victorious. And I feel like that's kind of been in my headspace lately, because I've been writing a lot of goals, like not the typical bullshit, like, the new year, new me. Like I got these resolutions that I'm gonna do. Like I really recently tried to crack open like a way for me to become victorious, celebrate that, and then decide my next move. But I hadn't ever really thought of victory coming from giving it to myself, right?
Well, nobody's gonna tell you. Like nobody else is gonna tell you. That's human nature to protect yourself. Like, you might get some comments on like, man, that's a cool piece or whatever, but like nobody's gonna legitimately like be like, you need to sit down and recognize this, right? Like they're not gonna do that.
They're not gonna do that.
Human
And
nature.
So many people fall into the trap, I think, of seeking that victory from someone else, or maybe it comes from a physical product that becomes done, or maybe it's like some sort of financial gain that they got, like, oh, I made all this money back and that's what made me victorious, when really you could run a lap and those people that have never ran a lap before become victorious. And it's almost the same level of victory, because I don't know if it changes. You don't compare games. Like, oh, I just bought a fucking $500,000 house versus like you ran that one lap that you haven't ran in months. You don't go comparing that. It's both victory.
Yeah.
One way or another. But it comes down to the individual to decide that they're victorious, right?
Mm.
I don't know, just to unravel that, because I just like had that little fucking brain. Brain bomb,
Yeah, I definitely don't celebrate my victories enough.
Right.
For sure.
I don't either. I really don't. And I feel like there's so many victories to be had in even just one day. And people go years without celebrating a victory, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like I have people in my life like that now.
Yeah.
That just don't do that. Or, they don't even set themselves up to find accomplishment in these goals they're setting up for themselves. So I guess that kind of makes me feel like, what are some of your goals? When you hit this level of success, like, what do you goals become? Because it's not, the getting one client anymore. It's not the getting 20 clients, or it's not that financial value. It's not getting X students, I would think. So like, what do your goals become after, such a level of excellence?
I mean, for a while, at least the last couple of years, I really didn't have any goals, like not that many, and which is kind of like not the right thing to say, right? Like, I mean, like, who says that? I don't really have any goals. It sounds like some lazy dude sitting on a couch, but my mind frame changed to be just thankful for what I was doing and thankful for what I had accomplished. And then you end up accomplishing even more, not even knowing it. I mean, when I was younger, sure, it was like, man, I got to get that board certification by a certain level, and I want to have a second clinic by this amount, or I want to be making X amount of money, or I want to live in X square footage size house. And now it's like, I don't really care about that stuff anymore. I'd rather have better interpersonal relationships with people. I'd rather be respected for what I do, rather than monetary possessions. I'm honored if somebody says, we want to pay you to fly to this country and give a series of lectures. I'm like, geez, like, didn't see that one coming, like, man, that's awesome. But I don't really set out stuff to try to check it off that much anymore. I mean, kind of take it as it comes. I really, the challenges or the goals it would be if I'm like setting up a new location and then trying to get that thing off the ground, because it takes a lot of work and a lot of survival to try to make that happen. So I guess that would be a goal, but by and large, I'd just try to be happy day to day, because I don't know if I'm gonna be here next year. I hope I am, but like I'm just trying to enjoy it as I go along.
That's been huge for me. Just trying to tap into that positivity and really just bring that to the table first and foremost. Because I feel like at a point in my career, I mean, obviously there's a lot more stuff that I could do, but I feel like I've gotten to a level where I don't really have to think about much of what I'm doing. The systems are there, the skills there. Like, I've developed the stuff needed to grow. Now it's not so much actual like checkpoints. It's just I want to be happy.
Yeah.
I just wanna wake up excited for the day.
Yeah.
And just have a good one, and knowing that if I do that, shit'll grow itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it will.
That's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's awesome stuff, man. We did timer did go off, so I would like to maybe get a little Patreon episode in.
Sure. Yeah.
But dude, it's fucking awesome having you up here.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
This has been fun. Time flew,
Yeah.
Hopefully we brought some value to the table for you guys out there, and we are going to jump into the Patreon episode. So if you're not on our Patreon, fucking check it out. I'm gonna hand it over to Tim here, and he's gonna. If there's anything left you want to, I guess there would be one. If we do this a lot on the episodes, if there was one piece of advice that you could leave people with here, is there anything that you would want to leave with majority tattooers out there?
I think it'd be for really anybody that not like, kind of my mantra, if you will, lately is like enjoy the journey that you're on, and enjoy the struggles that you're going through, and then how you're going to overcome those struggles, and then celebrate your victories. No matter if you're a tattoo artist or a dentist or a therapist or somebody fixing transmissions at Ford power plant, like it sounds kind of cliche, but like just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Like
It's good stuff.
That's fucking homework right there. So, I think one thing that I would like to hear, all of us would, and of course when we get comments and stuff, we'll share it with you, because I think that it will provoke a lot of good feedback from people. But it's get those 3 things down, like write them down. Write what you're how can you break that down again? I feel like it was three things.
Just enjoy the journey, enjoy the struggles, and then how you overcome those struggles, and then celebrate your successes and be thankful.
Right. So like go
stuff.
through, I feel like people could, like, I'm going to do this right now that you've broken it down that way, is like write those things out. Like, what do you struggle with, and like how do you overcome it, and how do you celebrate those victories? I think that would be impactful, because I don't know how many people actually do those things.
And you're saying take some time and maybe journal it out, spend some time in a notebook.
Right. Because for me, prompts are, what I need. I need a prompt to do those things. And I feel like a lot of people can relate, especially tattooers, drawing all day or making artwork. Probably difficult to sit down and actually start journaling. But I would love to see somebody. I challenge somebody to write it out in a comment to what you struggle with and how you push through that, and you know, how do you celebrate those things? Because when you do that, I feel like that's when you start to unlock life. You know what I'm saying? When you start to, it becomes easy, because nothing's easy. Everything becomes more difficult the higher you get, but you can lift that load off once you start.
That's like the Navy SEALs say. They say, embrace the suck. You know, and it's like, yeah, things suck sometimes, man. Just laugh at it. Be like, man, this sucks right now.
Right.
Like this thing I'm going through right now, man, it sucks, but you're going to come out on the other side. You know, everybody does usually.
Yeah.
Right. Well, man, this has been a fucking impactful episode to me personally. I'm sure that everyone got a lot of value out of it. You can find DJ here on Instagram at Animal Eye Institute. It's going to be impossible to miss it. It's all these fucking images.
Gross eyeballs, yeah.
Right, the crazy eyeball photos. Follow him.
Wild eyeball photos.
Right, yeah. Follow his Instagram, you know, watch his journey, because he's doing a lot of cool stuff. He also puts on a lot of people that are in the industry. Mm-hmm. He's coaching and stuff, so I think that's really awesome too. You know, you can find the show at More Than Tats. Tired of telling you guys. This is fucking episode, what, like 12 or 13 now? Y'all should just be on it. But Google More Than Tats. You'll find our link tree. You'll be able to find where you can find all of our episodes. Find our website. Pick up a cool piece of merch, hat, or a jacket, hoodie, or something like that if you're down. Chris mentioned we have the Patreon. We got some pretty good episodes there. Funny. And we get to, you know, pick people's brains in a direction that I think that most of the time you don't really get just with the meat and potatoes episode. So I think there's a lot of good value there too. And I ain't got nothing else. Oh. I did the credits. I rolled the credits.
Gucci.
Without further ado, appreciate y'all for spending another day with us on More Than Tattoos, DJ.
Absolutely.
You're a fucking king, brother.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's fun.
Yeah.
Well, so it's good to reconnect again. It's been a little bit.
It has been a while.
Been a little bit.
Yeah.
I need to get back in the chair too, so good reminder.
After getting 2 fucking ankles down, I'm surprised you're looking forward to get back in.
Ankles. We ain't going here.
We'll move up to the arm.
Yeah, we're not doing any more ankles.
Alrighty, y'all. We will catch you on the next episode of More Than Tattoos, and you guys have a great week. Peace.